Hey guys, it's me, Jack, and I'm back with another review. I would like to apologize that my reviews aren't as common as they used to be. Part of it is just because I've been suffering from some good old-fashioned writer's block. But I figured it was time that I should get back to doing some more reviews. And what better to review than a shitty movie? Yeah, those are always a lot of fun to talk about. Battlefield Earth. Based off of the book by L. Ron Hubbard, the film was something of a passion project of its star and also producer, John Travolta. He'd apparently been trying to get it made for years. And in the year 2000, that dream was finally realized. And it seemed promising. It was directed by the guy who did the art direction for Star Wars and Alien. It had some good cast members like Barry Pepper and Forrest Whitaker. But when it was released, it was panned by critics and audiences the world over, and has since been regarded as one of the worst movies ever made. But is it really as bad as all that? Well, let's find out. The movie takes place in the far future, where an alien race known as Cyclos have enslaved humanity. One particular Cyclo, named Turl, decides to educate some humans in the ways of their kind, in order to dig up some gold. Little does he know that the humans are in fact plotting a revolt. The interesting thing about Battlefield Earth is that depending on which characters, or should I say which species, you're focusing on, the movie's quality really differs. For example, the hero of the movie, Johnny, played by Barry Pepper, is not a terrible character, nor is Barry Pepper's performance that bad. Admittedly, he has a few goofy moments, like this bit where he's trapped behind some bars and he starts screaming like a wild man. But outside of that, his performance is perfectly serviceable. And the same goes for most of the other human characters as well. There's this girl who I guess Johnny has a romance with, but it's only really shown a few times in the film. Whenever her character is on screen, you're like, oh yeah, right, he has a girlfriend. I guess we got to include a romantic storyline in here somewhere. But still, whenever it's focused on the humans, the film is perfectly tolerable. I legitimately buy Johnny as the leader of the human resistance against the Cyclos. This movie doesn't seem that bad. Maybe the critics were just exaggerating. Oh my god! Yeah, let's talk about the Cyclos. Now, admittedly, the build-up to the Cyclos is really good. You hear the humans talk about them and refer to them as demons. Then you have a scene where Johnny is attacked by one of them, and the movie keeps the Cyclo in the shadows, building up the reveal. I'm actually kind of excited. I wonder what these guys look like. And then you see them. Disappointment is an understatement. I mean, the costumes and the makeup for these guys are really abysmal. Especially their boots. Look at those things! As for the acting for the Cyclos, it's on the complete opposite end as the humans. Where the humans were passable, albeit nothing special, the Cyclos are over the top and ridiculous.
While you were still learning how to spell your name, I was being trained to conquer galaxies.
To be fair though, it is pretty hard to act subtle and restrained when you look like this. So I'll cut them some slack. Turl, played by John Travolta, is the main antagonist of the film. And funnily enough, his character is actually kind of sympathetic. He's a guy who hates working on Earth and has been doing it for a very long time. And just when he thinks he's going to be transferred, he is told that he will stay on Earth for much longer than anticipated. And he is ticked off about this. And to be fair, I think that's very relatable to some people. Some of us have worked jobs that we really hated doing, but we just had to keep doing them. And after this happens, he goes to the bar and gets drunk. Yeah, that's our villain, everybody. Getting wasted after realizing that he has to stay on Earth. The big problem with him, and really the Cyclos in general, is that it's impossible to take them seriously at all. And the thing is, a lot of the time, the humor that comes from them is unintentional, caused by the acting. But other times there are moments that are clearly meant to be funny, like when Turl bumps his head on the ceiling and angrily commands that the humans fix it. But even if this moment is supposed to be funny, it just undermines this guy as an antagonist, and takes away from any sense of danger that he's supposed to give off when he's on screen. The same goes for all of the other Cyclos as well. Forrest Whitaker is a fine actor, but in this movie, his performance is pretty cringe. You could make a drinking game out of how many times he or Turl laugh. The thing is, the Cyclos and the humans feel like they're in completely different movies. Whenever you're watching the humans, you feel like you're watching a serious dystopian epic. But whenever you're watching the Cyclos, you feel like you're watching some sort of satirical sci-fi comedy. The thing is, if they just committed to one of these tones, that would be fine. If the film was meant to be a sci-fi comedy and they just committed to the goofy acting, then it would have worked better. Or if they committed to the serious tone. Just pick one or the other. From reading the behind-the-scenes stuff, it's clear that this movie was intended to be a serious science fiction epic, which just makes it all the more hilarious that the film turned out so bad. However, I will say that at the very end of the movie, I started to get a little bit more invested in what was going on, at least with the humans. As they planned their revolt, I found myself genuinely wanting them to win, and kind of getting into it. It wasn't until later that I remembered the movie that I was watching. Well, enough about the characters, what about the filmmaking? Well, as I said before, this movie was directed by Roger Christian, the guy who did the art direction for Star Wars and Alien. And you can definitely tell that because the set pieces in this film are pretty cool. Yeah, I do like a lot of these sets. Particularly the ruined city. There are also some nice shots in this movie. The film makes good use of sunsets and sunrises, and we get some great shots flying over the mountains, giving the movie that epic scope that I know they were really trying to give it. The cinematography is also not bad. I like that the set pieces have different color palettes to them. Blue, green, yellow. But that's really where my positives end with the directing. Of course, the film has some pretty obvious directing problems that people have pointed out before, like the fact that most of the shots are tilted. Admittedly, once in a while, you could argue that the angle adds to the uncomfortable atmosphere of the scene, or at least the uncomfortable atmosphere that they're attempting, but most of the time, it's just annoying and pointless. Then there's the fact that every single transition in the movie is a curtain wipe. Now, obviously, wipes have been used before as a way of transitioning from one scene to the next. But in something like Star Wars, there was a great variety of different wipes. This one is just a curtain opening over and over and over again. I mean, at least the final wipe of the movie is a curtain closing, symbolizing the end of the movie and thus the end of your torture. But still, if you're gonna use wipes, at least be more creative with them. And then you have the slow motion. Dear God, this movie masturbates over slow motion. When slow motion is used occasionally, it can be really cool. But this movie just uses it all the time. I can understand using it for the action scenes, but do we really need to use it when Turl's boss is laughing at him? It just makes this scene even more awkward, if that was even possible. As for the special effects, they're pretty bad. Granted, this was 2000, but still, so much of this looks like a video game. My absolute favorite is the shots of the planet Cyclo. It looks like something out of a student project. The music for the movie was done by Elias Smirl. a Czech composer who does a decent job scoring this movie. My personal favorite is the music that plays when the Cyclos first attack. I like that there's not much sound in this scene, and the music is quite unsettling. It builds up the reveal of the Cyclos very well, and the rest of the score is perfectly decent. And that's the unfortunate thing about this movie. There was at the very least, decent sci-fi film hiding in here somewhere. But it's buried under a lot of really hammy acting, awful costumes, and weird directing. Again, if the film had just committed to one tone, it would have been fine. Maybe they should have just made it a comedy. Or if it's meant to be a serious film, try actually making it serious. I am ultimately going to give Battlefield Earth a 3 out of 10.